I love it when flat earthers try and claim that I have done no work to prove or disprove the claims of flat earth or the globe. Well, of the well over 400 tests, experiments, analyses, models, and demonstrations that I have completed, I thought I would make this little compressed video to answer these people, even though they won't watch this whole thing either. Here are just a few of my favorites. Links to the full videos are below. This was a multinational test which was performed to see if the conclusions from the Eratosthenes experiment could actually prove a flat earth or a globe earth. I tested the results on both models, and it only worked on one, the globe. This was a multinational observation experiment. Again, many participants all over the Eastern Hemisphere testing claims that were made about the dog cam video. It should be noted that this test was so feared because it was performed using the blind testing method that flat earthers such as Nathan Oakley organized a boycott against any flat earthers participating. There were also 2 other hypotheses that I checked which checked the globe model, and guess what? All of them checked out. This was a test I performed due to many claims from flat earthers that if you're standing on different positions on the globe Earth, you wouldn't get circular star trails, which I proved was incorrect. Additionally, using a very simple analog, I showed that star trails around Polaris on the flat Earth would actually produce oval star trails. This was an experiment to end the argument of 360-degree views of the horizon, claiming that it's flat, only concludes that the Earth is flat, is incorrect. I landed a 360-degree camera on a known spherical object, and it produced a flat horizon all the way around. This really didn't need to be performed, but apparently some people just didn't get the basic geometry of it. This was an observation test using known elevations of known objects and comparing them at a distance to see if we can see drop due to curvature or if we were seeing something else. And every method of mathematics that were used all produced the same result, and that is, it's drop due to curvature. This test was by far the most labor intensive. I wanted to see if we can use this building and the corresponding locations on either end of it to show drop due to curvature. Using 21 different altitude measurements from 7 different tools, using an auto level and an incredible amount of rather high precision geometry, it resulted that we were indeed seeing drop due to curvature. This was a set of simple tests to settle the argument of the divergence of sun rays and their shadows and what they actually are pointing at. Not to mention the fact that the shadows moving away from the light source did not match what we were being told about the flat Earth model, and once again simply proving the globe. This experiment was actually a lot of fun. A couple of globe earthers, plus the locations and confirmations from a group of flat earthers, stating that they saw the sun rise at due east and set due west during the equinox, and I modeled that out to show that not only does it not work in any way, shape, or form on any of the proposed flat Earth models at the time, but on a 3-dimensional spherical Earth it worked just fine. Now this was a very interesting test. The hypothesis was, if the Earth is indeed spherical and gravity pulls things towards the center of the Earth, then plumb lines are not parallel. Now in order to see this actually in action, you need a pretty large distance between the two and a common observation point. Jupiter and Saturn, both visible from Germany and the UK, were used as that reference point, and it produced the exact amount of divergence expected on the globe. This was me taking the test results from the $20,000 fiber optic gyro, which according to Globebusters never existed and nobody ever bought. I took the actual raw data that was produced by this 1-hour test and I modeled it out. The results came out so accurate that I could actually say the offset that the gyro was, and that there was also a slight tilt on the table. Pretty fascinating stuff. And proving the rotation of the Earth, of course. This was a live stream that I did watching the sunrise in Auckland, New Zealand, using live webcams that are accessible by anybody. And this clearly showed the sun rising south of due east, which is impossible on every single flat Earth model, but not impossible on the globe. The recently deceased Rob Skiba launched a high-altitude balloon with 2 cameras on it, one on the top with the standard GoPro fisheye lens, and one on the bottom which was gyro-stabilized with a replaced lens that has almost no barrel distortion. The purpose was to see if you could see curvature with a non-barrel distorting fisheye lens, or if it was flat. The results of the analysis not only showed curvature, but doing the math on it and producing a curved benchmark of how much was predicted to be curvature at that altitude, it matched up exactly. There were rebuttals that were made by Mr. Skiba. The first one was him claiming barrel distortion on his non-barrel distorting lens, despite his numerous tests to the contrary, but then he also wanted to say that there was curvature visible at lower altitudes, but failed to mention that what he was looking at was the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. This was an earlier analysis that I did of another flat earther who launched a high altitude balloon just prior to sunrise with a non-distorting lens on a GoPro camera, and all the things that were observed by that camera throughout its entire flight confirmed that the Earth is indeed spherical. This here was an analysis of the world record distance photograph, which a lot of flat earthers like to say proves the flat Earth, and only pre-dawn. But the more important part that I wanted to display to everybody, which is very clear in the photograph, is that because the mountain peaks in the foreground are lower than the observation point, and the horizon is lower than those mountain peaks, then you are in fact looking down at the horizon. And I still have more than 400 more videos that I'm not going to cover in this video, comparing the claims of flat earthers to the stated parameters of the globe. And most flat earth claims I've actually covered in very short format in my Quickie series. Out of focus stars. The sun and the clouds claim. Daytime moon phases. Daylight map versus the globe. Demonstrating mirages. What is up on a globe? Cloud underlighting. The blinding speed of Earth rotation. Impossibilities of the hotspot claim. Flight durations. The difference in spherical objects. Some silly buoyancy claim. Phases on a close versus distant moon. Targets above eye level stay above eye level on a plane. A very silly reflection claim. Tilting a camera does not change angular relationships. Yes, a rock reflecting light does cast a shadow. Change in pressure due to altitude with no barrier. Where the signal hits a satellite antenna. Why we don't see a clutter of satellites. Modeling the Discover photos of Earth. Modeling the Earth photos from the Moon. Size versus distance. A little bit of parallax stuff. What an eclipse shadow looks like. Using an auto level to prove drop. The sun's shadow says it's beyond the FE map. No hotspot on a dull moon surface. What the horizon is really showing you. And what defines eye level on a camera. So I challenge any flat earther to prove by demonstration even as much as I've done in this video. Then we can talk. Y'all have a nice day.
Oh my god.